Hi Rebecca, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks.
Good.
Firstly, congratulations on the release of your film, Electric Children.
Thanks, Adam. I'm really happy.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen it yet due to a slight mix-up with getting a screener out to me, but I'm very much looking forward to it.
Well, what I might say to you might be a little confusing then, but let's give it a go.
So the central character in Electric Children, Rachel, is a member of a fundamentalist Mormon community, and I believe that you actually
Uh-huh.
based her on yourself and your own experiences.
So this, I grew up mainstream Mormon in Las Vegas, but I'm not fundamentalist Mormon. But I had the opportunity to kind of deal with some fundamentalist Mormons in some documentary work I was doing, and realized that there was like a lot of overlap in our religion, obviously, because we both sort of the religions both come from the same founder essentially.
Yeah.
So I was very interested in them because they lead such a strict lifestyle, more so than mainstream Mormonism, and their situation is very dramatic. So that's sort of how I got to know about these people.
And how did your upbringing compare to Rachel? I mean, you said that certain things overlapped, but it wasn't quite as strict. But we know what were the.
Well, I dressed normal and I went to normal schools and watched TV and listened to music and went to the mall and those kind of things. But just like went to church on Sunday and had church activities through the week. And of course, Mormonism is sort of all encompassing in your life. So like it's a worldview as much as it is as any other religion, I guess. So um, there are pretty strict commandments about what you eat and like what kind of things you're supposed to be doing. So, but it's pretty relaxed nowadays.
So when you personally were first introduced to rock and roll, it wasn't quite as opening as it is for Rachel.
No, it wasn't quite as startling, but I have to say I'm the youngest of five, so I got to hear a lot of different kinds of music and sort of fell in love with what my older siblings were doing, and so I had the opportunity at a young age to hear things that perhaps my friends weren't hearing who didn't have older siblings, and felt that was sort of like a secret fun thing that maybe my parents wouldn't have loved if they knew what was going on.
It's quite ironic actually, because I mean I've spoken to a couple of filmmakers in the past who grew
Uh-huh.
up with similar backgrounds, and they didn't actually see their first film until their early teens, and it was actually
Yeah.
that first experience in the theater that kind of had a similar effect on them as
Yeah.
rock and roll does to Rachel, and it really struck a chord with them, no pun intended, and that they essentially became obsessed with cinema from that moment on.
Yeah, I think that happens. It's like it's either the first time or it's that specific song or that specific movie or whatever it is, and that can be a game changer.
So what inspired you to become a filmmaker?
Oh, what inspired me? Well, I have to say that I was in a radio broadcasting class in high school, and they sort of snuck some video equipment in, and I started to become obsessed with shooting things and editing them on Final Cut Pro. So I think it was just like this obsession I had with editing that started me off with filmmaking, and then once I left home, I got to see a lot more films, and I thought, oh, I wonder how that works, or if I could do it. And I think my mom's an artist, and she does a lot of theater production as well, and so I kind of grew up with art around me and music around me, and film sort of encompasses all of those things. And I think being a film director was sort of the way to be able to have the best of all those worlds.
So you're an editor basically before writing and directing came
Exactly.
along.
Yeah, I was shooting and edit really, really bad music videos that me and my friends would make in my garage and things like that, set to DMX songs or something weird.
And what I find to be one of the most interesting things about the film is that you funded it via Kickstarter.
Yeah, yeah. So a little over a year ago, my producer and I put up a Kickstarter. Um, and you've seen the website, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure you've probably been asked to donate to quite a few by now. But basically, we decided to make a micro budget feature, and we were going to raise like $10,000 on Kickstarter, and then take out like another $10,000 in loan. We thought like, well, we're already so far in debt from grad school, we might as well just try this. And So basically, about $5,000 into the fundraising, um, we were writing personal emails and making phone calls, and my producer had stumbled across this old contact named Richard Neustradter, and she sent him an email, and just like very short, will you donate $5? And he didn't respond to her, but he just immediately gave us $5,000, which was really nice,
Oh, wow.
obviously. And uh, and so I wrote him a thank you email. And I said, hey, if you'd like to read the script, let me know. And he said, of course. So I sent him the script, and he read it. And then a couple days later, I got this phone call, and he basically said to me, like, I'll give you $20,000 and leave you alone if that's what you want to do. But if you let me come on as a producer, we can make this for a lot more money, and I'll finance the film. And of course, I said yes. And but I said, kind of gave him the stipulation that we had to shoot in September. And he was like, well, I think that's kind of soon. But I sort of just stuck to my guns because I wasn't really sure if this was the real deal or not. And he was sweet and said, okay, let's do it. And so he absolutely loved the project and loved the story. As crazy as that is, that you could find somebody to finance this project. He totally was on board. So that's basically where the budget came from.
Brilliant. And I think it's very interesting, the whole crowdfunding thing. I mean, it's a very much new thing, and quite.
Definitely, I know. Like, I've been on a couple of different crowdsourcing, crowdfunding panels, and there's people who can raise a lot more money, you know, on these sort of websites and through crowdsourcing and crowd fundraising. Like, I don't know if you heard the film Iron Sky. That's another one that's pretty big.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, whenever I've spoken to filmmakers about it in the past, I mean, they've been quite uncertain of it. I mean, as we said, it's something new, but I think a lot of people are quite wary about it.
definitely. I think it's really difficult to do. It's like a full-time job, but I think at least what's happening in the States is that award-winning movies just don't get distribution deals, so they'll go on. They'll already have a good film made, and then they go online and just raise the money themselves and try to do a small distribution plan, which I think is kind of sad in some sort of way. But I think it's great that people are going out and saying, I want somebody to see my movie. I made this to play in theaters, and they make it happen themselves. And you sort of get fans that way because you're promoting it online already by raising money.
Yeah, exactly. And here we are discussing the film, and there you have distribution.
Yeah, I'm super lucky and happy.
An immensely personal story to you. I mean, obviously you said that you've taken creative liberties, but I mean, Tony Todd actually once said to me that when you're writing to be true to yourself and use as much life experience as you can. And I think for you that's it's not just a like I said, it's not just a quote unquote passion project, but that rings true for you.
Definitely, I think I've definitely infused the film with a lot of my own personal experiences and just like opinions about faith and about growing up. Um, yeah, so I definitely feel like I'm in there in almost all of the characters to some extent. So it is a personal film in that way, but definitely fiction. I never was immaculately concepted from a song, as you'll find out when you watch the movie.
So what was the casting process like? I mean, Billy Zane in there, and it's got a
Yeah,
pretty amazing cast.
a great cast. It was sort of all over the place. Roy came on relatively early in pre-production. He read the script and loved it and signed on fairly early. And Julia, on the other hand, didn't come on until about a week before, 5 or 6 days before. It was really hard to find sort of this lead character who was believably naive and bold at the same time. And Julia just seemed sort of like a holy person. I don't know if you'd seen a picture of her or anything, but she's just absolutely stunning and very sincere. One of the most sincere people I've ever met. Um, so for her, it was interesting. I had trouble finding her, and I started asking actors if they had any recommendations, and she was the recommendation of an actor. And then she also came as a recommendation from a filmmaker friend of mine who I'd used her in a short. So I got an audition tape from her, and we loved her and flew her out the next day, fitted her costumes, and she walked on set as Rachel, and we started. And so it was pretty overwhelming for her because this was her first big role, but she did a good job, and she really does carry the movie quite well.
Excellent. And what's the next project that you have in the pipeline?
I have a couple things that I'm writing right now, and I'm reading a lot of scripts too. So there's the possibility that I might direct something that someone else wrote, which I'm really happy about because writing is so difficult. Um, but I'm writing a horror thriller set in New York City. It's about an PhD student who falls in love with a girl who's trying to become Miss New York.
All right.
Yeah, and it's mainly set at the Russian Turkish bathhouse on the Lower East Side. It's a wonderful place. And then I'm writing an adaptation of The Little Mermaid that's set in Japan. So that should be a bigger production for a few years down the road.
Keeping busy then.
Yeah, keeping busy and still have things I want to write about. So that's a good sign, I guess, after all this.
Yeah, yeah.